Around the world, nations are sending military assets now to the Middle East, surrounding the area of Libya. The French have taken the first action, targeting for tanks or armored vehicles there in Libya. And the response on the part of rebels in Benghazi has been cheers. NBC's chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel is in Cairo now. What do the rebels really need to regain an upper hand?
And that is a big question. The rebels certainly are welcoming what happened today. They thought in the early hours that Benghazi was going to be overwhelmed, that their revolt would effectively be snuffed out by Gaddafi's forces. Now, there has already been some, or at least one French airstrike, and more coalition forces are gathering across the Mediterranean. But protecting the civilians, protecting the people of Benghazi, preventing Gaddafi's forces from moving in and creating some sort of access to humanitarian supplies, that certainly does help the people of Benghazi, but it doesn't necessarily help them win. Gaddafi still does have supporters in Tripoli. He has supporters in Sirte, which is about halfway between Benghazi and Tripoli. So they just because they have some air support now and more is on the way, doesn't mean that they will suddenly march over into Tripoli and take over this regime. General McCaffrey earlier mentioned southern Iraq and the no-fly zone. There was a no-fly zone and a defensive shield similar to this, although this one appears like it'll be more extensive in both northern and southern Iraq for a long time. But it wasn't until American ground troops actually stormed into Baghdad that Saddam Hussein's regime was ultimately toppled. And Gaddafi has made it clear, just like Saddam, he has no intention of going.
By the way, former President Bill Clinton said just a couple weeks ago and insisted that those who say that no-fly zones are ineffective are just wrong. He said that they can be effective and at least influential in what develops afterwards. The Secretary of State said today, Richard, that Arab participation in the action in Libya is absolutely crucial. General McCaffrey had pointed out there is no Arab participation, at least when it comes to action. Take, for instance, Egypt, which McCaffrey called out by name. Is there any way they're in a position to contribute right now?
They absolutely would be in a way to contribute. I'm in Egypt. I've driven the road between Egypt and the border with Libya. That road is full of Egyptian tanks. If Egypt felt physically threatened by what's happening in Libya, it could send tanks over the border and they could be in Benghazi in a matter of hours. It is not doing that. Instead, what we've seen is the Arab world giving the West, giving the United States political cover. The fact that the Arab League asked for this international intervention helps the West. So many wars in the Middle East over the last 10 years or so have been seen as Western powers or Israel attacking an Arab nation, and by the Arab League reaching out and giving its support and actually asking for an intervention, hopefully there is going to be a way of undercutting that argument, that it won't be seen like the Gaza war when Israel was attacking Gaza, or the Lebanon war, again Israel involved in a war with Hezbollah, or the Iraq war where the United States attacked Iraq, attacked Saddam Hussein's regime. So here it would be the Middle East asking for it, but it doesn't seem that the Middle East is willing to go up and do it themselves, because yes, they certainly have the assets here in Egypt. Saudi Arabia does little else but buy arms from Western powers, particularly aircraft, so it certainly has a very large arsenal that it could also employ.
Richard Engel reporting from Cairo. Richard, thank you very much.